Hi, I'm Melissa, and today we're going to be talking about the basics of aircraft navigation. There's many tools to help with that. The first one is you have your good plan, you write it down. The most important thing you can do is write it down. But to help you, the FAA produces charts. This one is called a sectional. This is roughly a state chart. This one is Arizona, in fact. It's pretty sizable. This is northern Arizona on this half. So here's Flagstaff. There's the top half of Phoenix. And in the left side you can see there's a legend because nobody remembers all of these notations. We have airspace, we have navigational beacons, mountains, cities, everything. On the other side is southern Arizona. So here's Phoenix and there's Tucson. And you can see it's pretty big. That's the most common chart to use. But to make things easier to see, we're going to use the terminal area chart because it's a zoomed in section that just shows Phoenix. So today we're going to plan an imaginary flight from Glendale's airport on the West Valley to Casa Grande, way over down here. Driving, this is about an hour and 10 minutes. In flight, it should take us about 40 minutes. So to start out, we plot our course. For this, we simply take a highlighter and a ruler. This is a special ruler. It's called a plotter. You don't necessarily need it. But if I look here, I see I've got airspace. This is for Phoenix to protect those big airliners, and it goes down to 3,000 feet. I don't want anything to do with that, because then I have to ask permission and watch out for big airliners. So I'm going to try to go around it. For starters, I see that Phoenix International Raceway is right here on the chart. It's pictured on the chart because you can see it from the air from quite a distance. So I'm going to start by taking off and flying south to PIR. When I get to that raceway, I'm going to turn towards the southeast and fly the whole rest of the way to Chandler. And looking at this course, I can see that I am more or less staying out of the way of my airspace. So my next step is to measure all of these legs. Now, to make things go a little bit faster, I have already measured. Your compass heading for this section is 191, and your compass heading for this section is 133. I've also already picked out some checkpoints that I will use from the air to keep me on course. PIR is obviously a good one because I'm turning. I'm also going to use the Estrella Mountains because they're going to be on my right side for half of the flight. I'm going to use this here test track. This is the U of A Maricopa Test Center. I have no idea what this is, but it's on the map and it shows a racetrack, and you can see that from the air because otherwise it wouldn't be here. So that's what matters. I'm going to use that to help me get all the way here to Casa Grande. So I have already written those things in on my chart, on my navigation log. Let me walk you through it. Here's our flight today at 4 o'clock in the afternoon from KGEU, that's Glendale's identifier. I have already written down, this is the frequency I need to talk to, 121. I found that information on the chart. We're going to Casa Grande. It's KCGZ. It's written on the chart, so I wrote it on my navigation log. So is the frequency for their tower. Now, as I'm between the two airports, I got nobody to talk to. I'm not going to talk to a tower, so I'm going to talk to the flight service station if I need anything along the way. To find their frequency, the easiest way, find the biggest city you can, which for us is Phoenix, and in this huge mess of data, you locate a little box that happens to have the frequency in it. If you don't know how to find the box, you come back to the legend, and it shows you. Here's a communications box. And it gives you all kinds of information so you can figure it out. You don't have to memorize it. So Prescott radio is at 122.2, so I wrote that down. And my emergency frequency for Arizona is 121.5. I wrote that down. So now I've already taken the liberty of measuring each of these course legs. From Glendale to PIR is 8 miles. From PIR to the test track is 28 miles. I did not bother to measure the hills because that's pretty hard to measure. I just wrote them in. From the test track to Casa Grande is 10 nautical miles. And I have my courses, 191 and 133. It's all written down. Now, let me pause for a moment and show you also, in addition to purchasing FAA charts, you can also go online for free to skyvector.com and get charts. This is Phoenix's chart. It's a scan of the one that's sitting in front of me. You can scroll around on it to your heart's content. So our next step is to find out about the weather, because you can see if the wind is going to blow. For example, if the wind is blowing this way, it's going to blow you off course. So how much is going to blow you off course? That's why you find out about weather. So I got a weather briefing, which looks like alphabet soup. They're not that hard to read, but if you don't want to have to read it, you can also go to this website. This is aviationweather.gov, and it does translate it. I have already typed in on this side KPHX for Phoenix and chosen translated, and there it is, and it tells you what each of those pieces of data means. So that really helps. For this, I have already taken the weather that I needed off of my weather briefing and written it down on my flight log, my navigation log. So I know the winds are coming out of 250, which is about the southwest, at 11 knots, which is a pretty good clip. That gives us the problem that I was showing earlier, that we are going to be flying 191, and it's going to try to blow us not only off course, but backwards a little bit. So we need to angle into the wind. So the project now is to figure out how much you have to turn to stay on that course. This is where a flight computer comes in handy. They come in an electronic format. This manual one is the most commonly used. This is what everybody learns on. For those who don't want to spend to buy one, you can also get one for a tablet or an iPhone. There, you find it by just searching for E6B on your mobile device in the store, and it works just the same as the one I'm about to demonstrate. So there's the option to get one, a virtual one, for free, just to play around. So what we have is our course, which I wrote down is course 191. The wind is out of the southwest at 250. So what we do is we take this, we center the center of the wheel, which has a dot, right on 100 knots, just because it makes the math easy. We turn the wheel because the wind is coming from 250. So we start with the wind, 250 at the top. And the wind is at 11 knots. So we've arbitrarily stuck it at 100. We're going to come up 11 marks from that 100. And that's 11 knots between the dot and my pink dot. So now we turn to course 191. And I have arbitrarily decided that we want to do 100 knots. We want to go pretty fast. So we're going to set that pink dot at 100 knots, which this arc is for 100 knots. So that tells the computer this is what we want to do. What it tells me is the central dot has moved down, so I can tell we're actually only going to be doing about 94 knots across the ground. So the wind's blowing us back. We've got a headwind. It also tells me, since it's offset 5 marks from this bold center line, that we need to aim 5 degrees into the wind. So 191, that brings us to 196. And the fact that it's slowing us down tells us a little bit about our speed. It tells us, usually you can make that leg in 5 minutes, you're probably going to do it in 6. So we're going to expect 6 minutes. Now, to make things go a little faster, I've done the same thing with this course at 133 knots, at course heading 133 with the wind from 250. We have to aim 6 degrees into the wind, so that brings us to 139, so we write that down. Another thing that it shows, let me go ahead and do it. Because the wind hasn't changed, you don't move the wind dot. We just move the course to 133, which is there. We want to fly 100 knots. So not only is it showing us that it's offset about 6 degrees, it's also showing us that instead of 100, we're going to be doing about 104. So we're going to get there a little bit faster, which is why we're going to get there at about 16 minutes from here to here. And from here, this track to Casa Grande is about 6 minutes. So with that, now we know we can add quite simply how much time we have on our flight. I know off the top of my head, my airplane uses 8 gallons of fuel per hour. If we're in the air for 32 minutes, we need 4 gallons of fuel and a splash extra. To be safe, you might as well fill the tanks, but the FAA says you only need 8.5 gallons to make this flight because that's plenty of reserve. You only need a half hour. So now we know exactly how much fuel we need, we know what we're doing, we know how long it's going to take to fly. And that's it. That's all there is to aircraft navigation.